I am so excited today to be back with Patti Habeck from Feeding America, the president and CEO. Patti, thank you so much for agreeing to be here. Happy New Year. I am just so happy to be talking about Feeding America. We've spent a lot of time there, my employees have, and you just have such a great organization. Tell the listeners how long you've been there and how you got there and just about Feeding America in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. And, I'm really excited about the new year and what's going to come in 2023. I am always very optimistic. So I'm starting the year in an optimistic kind of place.
Good.
I've been with Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin for 11 years now. And I had no knowledge of Feeding America when I first started. It was one of those things. I was happy at my job. And we had a board member who wanted me to lead a capital campaign to build a second food bank up in the Appleton area. And so I was happy at my job. He came by and he said, would you consider this? And I said, love what I'm doing. I'll get you some good people, but I'm not interested. And he came back again. And I said, you know what? I'm going to head down to Milwaukee. I'll check out the food bank in Milwaukee. I'll spend 2 days down there, but I won't talk to any management. I'm only going to talk to the warehouse team, our volunteers, the forklift drivers. I want to know what the real story is about Feeding America. And I have to tell you, on that second day, as I was driving back, I picked up the phone. I called him, said I would do it. I would not only do it, but I really fell in love with the mission. I fell in love with what was happening. And so that's how I started with the organization.
It's the same kind of story, actually. I've heard from a lot of other people like you that are doing amazing things and are asked, the people involved in these organizations, they see people out in the community doing other things and they know, I want that person. That person would do a great job here. And it's usually not the first ask that gets the people to come. It's the second or the third, and then you go see what's going on, and then you just fall in love with the mission. I know the first time I was ever at Feeding America, and it was probably 8 years ago, and we were unwrapping food or doing things, whatever you guys would ask us to do. You just can't help love what's going on. And when I was with you actually at the end of last year, I think our staff was there a couple days, and you and I were talking about food insecurity issues. I just can't believe that, here we are in 2023 and food insecurity is still a big issue. It's like heartbreaking to me to hear that there's so many people and children that are going hungry. It just seems crazy.
It is. And, I've had this conversation so many times that it's not something that I think will end soon, but we have everything we need to end it. It's almost like we're missing the will or the collaboration or the partnership to all come together and say, listen, we're tired of there being hungry people.
Yeah.
And so that's, a big part of what I do is I do things like this. I talk to community. I talk to anyone who will listen to say, listen, we have what we need to solve food insecurity. And what we really need to do is get our ducks in a row, get everyone lined up and say, we're done with it and we're going to fix it.
I want to go back and learn more about you. But before we do that, how big of a problem is food insecurity now?
So in Wisconsin, in eastern Wisconsin, which is what we cover, eastern Wisconsin, it ranges. In Milwaukee, 1 in 4 kids is food insecure. And you look at that and you look at how many kids we have in Milwaukee and you just think this is just not right.
No.
1 in 6 individuals, total all the ages in Milwaukee, or 1 in 8 in eastern. It doesn't really matter. Those numbers are huge. And the area that we serve, I'm helping about 500,000 people in need.
Wow.
And that number is so scary, but I hardly ever use it because what's behind that number are people. And those people are, little Susies and Joeys and Antoines who just need help and they need the food. And so I hate using 500,000 because it takes away from the fact that those are all names and faces and stories, quite honestly.
500,000 people, but it makes way more sense to talk about that they are people. And how would we expect kids in school to sit around and learn or want to learn if you're hungry? I mean, we all can think about ourselves. If we're going through a day and we're hungry, it's hard to do our jobs. It's hard to focus. I mean, crazy to think in 2023 that there's that many people that are hungry. But that's what makes Feeding America so fantastic and amazing. Okay, going back, Years and years ago, you then decide, you see the mission, you're like, I'm all about it. And then what is your initial role and what are you doing? And then how did you get to be the head honcho, the big cheese, making all the decisions, going out there and doing great things?
So I never really set out to be the leader of any organization. That's not really what I felt my calling was. In fact, I was supposed to be a dentist. I have an undergrad in biochemistry. I was supposed to go to dental school, and I was just taking 1 year off to see what the community had to offer. And
Yeah.
here I am all these years later.
Well, let me say this. Thank God you're not a dentist because you have made such a difference in this community and it is amazing. And this definitely was your calling because you do an amazing job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I actually started with Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin as a fundraiser, as the Northeast Wisconsin Regional Manager. I think that was my title at the time. And my job was to build the building up north. We had 26 counties that encompassed a wide geography and a lot of rural communities, and it was very difficult to serve. And sending our trucks out of Milwaukee Food Bank all the way up to Vilas County in the north was just too much transportation and logistics. And so they wanted to build a smaller facility in Appleton. The land had already been purchased by the time I came in. A big sign said coming soon. And I walked onto the land and I realized, you know what? We have a lot of work to do before we actually build the building, because Feeding America is not about just the building. It's about the network. And we needed people to understand what it is that we were doing. We needed to build a network. And so that's what I did. Ultimately ended up building the building. It's about a third of the size of the one we have on Fond du Lac Avenue in Milwaukee. It's much smaller. And then I was going to go back to my other job. And it just so happened that the president of Feeding America at the time, the one that was based in Milwaukee, was retiring. And so the board asked if I would just stay a little longer, help break in a new president, which I did. And that person came in, led for a couple years, but then there were challenges and problems that we needed to look at. And so the board asked if I'd stay a little longer. Ultimately, here I am.
A little longer, till you're the president.
And that's exactly what happened.
That's
and
awesome.
Now president and CEO, been doing this for about 6.5 years, and just loving every minute of it. So I easily was able to give up the idea that I'd ever go back to anything else. This is where my heart and passion is, and that's why I'm still doing what I do.
To build the building in Appleton, how much money did you have to raise to get that from start to finish completed?
What was really nice about it, my campaign size was only $6 million, which in the world of capital campaigns is not that big. The challenge to it was we didn't have any board members up there. We didn't have a set of donors because we weren't really known up there.
Right.
And that's why I said I had to go back to build the network. But I will tell you, as soon as I started telling people about what we were doing, why we were bringing the food bank to the area, we just had so much support, and we ended up opening it a year earlier than planned.
That's awesome. And you said it's a third of the size of the Milwaukee campus. The building here in Milwaukee is amazing, what you've done to that. You know, as we volunteered there over the years, to see what it is now, it's just fantastic.
Yeah, thanks. Our building in Milwaukee, right on Fond du Lac Avenue, right as you enter downtown, just half mile up from Fiserv. I mean, it's in such an important place. But what I love about it, it's an old building, and we know that. But we've loved it into this entity that lives on Fond du Lac Avenue in the middle of community.
Right.
There's houses all around us. There's neighbors all around us. And we just love being there. And so we know that that's our space. The building itself is, like I said, it's old, but it's serving our purpose, and we absolutely like it.
Yeah, but on the outside it's old, but on the inside it really feels brand new, actually, the way you've done that. I mean, if you closed your eyes and walked in the door, you would never believe that the inside is coordinated with the outside. You just would not know that.
You know what? And I will tell you the secret to that is it's our staff and our volunteers who love that space so much. We have volunteers that will come in, and I have one gentleman named Dale who doesn't like when our forklifts leave any black marks on the floor. And he will come in there and he will ride what we call a Zamboni, a floor scrubber.
Yeah.
He will scrape it up with razor blades if he needs to, whatever he has to do to take care of the floors there.
Yeah.
So that's how every part of our building is. Our staff and our volunteers make sure that it is clean, it is shiny. It's really respectful for the work that we're doing.
Well, you see the pride in the place by everybody that's there. That's for sure. I want to talk a little bit about how much food and the counties you serve. If my notes tell me right, you serve 35 counties in southeastern Wisconsin?
We have 35 counties in eastern Wisconsin.
Eastern Wisconsin, okay. And it says 33.3 million pounds of food?
Yes,
That
and
is wild.
it's a huge amount of food. If you break that down per day, you're thinking about how many trucks have to semis have to come and go out of our building to distribute that. And actually, during the height of the pandemic, it was actually almost 60 million. So we've come
Wow.
down a little bit.
And how does it work? The food comes in, and how quickly do you want to get the food out? Because from being there and talking to people over the years, it seems like that's a pretty quick process. The food's coming in and going out. And talk about that, how you get the donations and then get them out to the people that really need it as quick as possible.
Absolutely. So the first thing we do when anyone starts new with our organization is we tell them our job is not to store the food. It's not about the storage. It is about getting the food in, inspecting it, making sure it's ready to go out, and then getting it out the door as fast as possible. Because the faster we can turn that food over, the more people have, more pantries have the food that we don't need to sit on this food. And so what we try to do is make sure that once it's received through our doors, we can sort it and make sure we've inspected it all and then get it out online within 24 hours. And by online, I just mean that we list it all on a site where food pantries can see everything that we have and they can select exactly what it is that
Yeah,
they
that
want.
was crazy when you and I were talking about that. I didn't realize that the pantries actually get to select the food. Another thing you told me late last year when we were together was about bartering with other organizations like yours, where it may be hard for you here in Wisconsin to get this type of food, and other food organizations around the country want this or that. Talk about this bartering, because I thought that was fascinating.
Yes. So you have to remember, food banks were founded back in the early 80s as a social innovation at the time. It was this idea of how do we gather all this leftover food that's in the food system and make sure we get it to people in need. And so one of the ways that all the food banks decided to do this was to start trading food. And so in Wisconsin, we grow a lot of vegetables. We have farms. We have a lot of corn and potatoes. We call them the hard seven vegetables. We have processing, food processing. And so we have the vegetable canners or frozen foods. In other parts of the country, they have a lot of fresh food and they want to move it very fast. Or in my favorite example is Atlanta's, where you find the peanut butter. And so what the food banks do is they created this intranet where we can actually trade. So I'll put on something that Wisconsin has a lot of canned vegetables, and I'll trade it for peanut butter from Atlanta or cantaloupes from Texas. And by doing that, we're able to really make sure that there's a diversity of product and getting that nutrition into the food banks.
And how much of the food that's coming in and out is done under this kind of barter system versus just the donations you may be getting from local grocery stores or however else you're getting your donations?
So reality is Wisconsin is the heartland. It is the middle of food producing. And so a lot of what we get just comes from growers, grocers, manufacturers, retailers, and producers from the state of Wisconsin. And so that's the bulk of what we do. But we still do quite a bit in that trading space. And I would say, I don't know the exact number, so don't quote me, but it's about that 20%, I would
Yeah,
say,
that's a lot.
is trading nationally.
How awesome, too, is it for other food organizations around the country to have this situation where they may need this and you have a lot, and you may need this and they have more? And how great that is for the individual people that are hungry here to get the food that really helps drive the system. I mean, I think that's pretty awesome.
You know, one of the best examples I'll share with you, this is one that just came out. We worked 10 years on this, so that I'm very, very proud of it.
Wow.
In our Appleton food bank, we have a clean room. It's a USDA grade clean room. We can repack food in there. And we use volunteers to do that. And so one of the things that we did is we went out to some frozen food producers who package up all the fresh vegetables that get harvested, and then they package them into these frozen. They were throwing away hundreds of thousands of pounds of frozen vegetables that either were slightly blemished, and by that I will say missing like 4 kernels of corn on the cob will exclude it from going into the frozen food system. And so what we did is we said, hey, we'll take that, we'll repack it, and then we'll be able to get all this fresh vegetables out. And they said, you can have as much as you can take and package. So we had to buy a metal detector. Anything coming off the harvest out of the fields has to be put through a metal detector. And we figured out how to package it. And it's all through the USDA, and it's all safely packed. And now we're able to trade all of that. So we take as much of that corn on the cob, for example, that we can get. And now we're trading that in the system. We call it our currency. It's corn currency.
That's amazing. Do you take the corn off the cob, or do you just package it
No,
on
we
the cob?
pack it on the cob.
That is so amazing. And just to think, all those hundreds of thousands of pounds were just being wasted.
Mhm.
And now it can go to help food insecurity. Yeah, I mean, A lot of optimism. You know, when I'm at Feeding America and we're talking about this stuff, I got to tell you, I feel kind of sad sometimes because, I mean, it's so amazing what you're doing, but to really think that there's that many people that need the food that are going hungry, it's sad. But to hear these kind of things where you're 10 years in the making to all of a sudden have hundreds of thousands of pounds of food, I mean, I guess there's a lot of room for optimism.
There is a lot of room for optimism, and that's one of the things about how I lead this organization is I am very much a person who embraces innovation and social innovation particularly. And so we look at things like how can we do something different because our mission is to solve hunger, not just continue to serve the need. We will continue to serve the need, and
Right.
that's going to be a big part of what we do. But we're also going to look at how do we make the line shorter? How do we make sure people get the food so that we are starting to close a gap and we don't have the problem of food insecurity like we do now.
Well, there's so many opportunities to work with your great organization. And I know my staff and myself and our directors, we've all been behind Feeding America. And I just want to talk briefly about some of the stuff that we've been involved in. Hopefully that can get some other people excited. And then I want to talk about some of the new things you have going on early this year in 2023. We've been involved with you in the annual Thanksgiving donation. We bring groups of employees multiple times a year to Feeding America to do whatever you need us to do. You have this great classroom where we can be prepared. We put our vests on so we can't get run over by a forklift, and talk about this program because my employees absolutely love it. And I want to say, I know my employees are hardworking when they're there. Last time I was there, we were sorting pizzas into boxes, and then the food pantries could grab them online. But talk about that amazing program where people can actually come in with their businesses and come on, Milwaukee businesses and Appleton businesses. Get your employees out to Feeding America. It's a great place to do something, make a difference, and they make it so easy on you. But talk about that program, how it started, how many people come through it, and tell people where they can go to get more information about it.
Absolutely. So we use volunteers for almost everything that we do. Sometimes they are volunteers, as your company does in our sorting space. That's actually our biggest group of volunteers. Then we have others that might have a very special skill set that they want to offer to us, and then we have the skills-based volunteers. So they might help us in one of our departments or something along that line. But corporations particularly are the ones that will come out during the day and support us and pack right there on site. Like I said to you, of all those 30 some millions of pounds of food, and that's only X food that's going out. It doesn't count all the food coming in that has to get sorted. All of that has to be looked at, inspected, packaged, sorted into different categories so the pantries know what it is that they're getting. And all of that happens by volunteers. And when we have groups like yours and other corporations coming out, it's a fun day. We try to make it fun because it is meant to be help you see and understand why it is that we all work in community together. You do your part on a daily basis, and then you come over and help us. We do our part, and we like to give back to you by giving your employees a good experience. If anybody wants to come out and volunteer, whether you're part of a group or an individual or a family, we just steer them to our website, www.feedingamericawi.org. And you'll see the volunteer site there. You can pick which facility you want to work in and then pick the date. Our slots fill up really fast, which is nice, but then we will always open up more because we need as many volunteers as we can get to do the work that we do.
Awesome. Let's talk about some of the things you have going on early this year. I know there's one new that we're a title sponsor of. I'm so excited about it. I was there when we were filming some commercials for it at the end of last year. But let's talk about the PB&J Challenge. Tell everyone about it.
Yes. So peanut butter and jelly PB&J challenge is something we've been doing for years, and we love this event. And I'll tell you the reason is peanut butter is food bank gold. When we can get peanut butter in the door, we know that kids especially, it's a good protein that kids can eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They can make it their sandwiches on their own if they don't have an adult helping them out. So we work really hard to get peanut butter in the food bank. It's one of those products that isn't donated very often. So your help on this is so important. What we do is we set up a program where we do a peanut butter and jelly drive, but we do a lot of fun events around this. We're bringing out Bobby Portis this year to really make sure that we get some more excitement around it and more people are aware of it.
Yeah.
This is a program that a lot of the young school kids will help us out with. So thank you for sponsoring this because it's one of our most important food drives of the year.
What makes peanut butter hard to get for you? Is it because it has a longer shelf life, so therefore it gets sold and then put back, so there isn't a lot there?
Exactly. It's an expensive product. It's a product that we don't grow here in Wisconsin for the most part. And so it is something that retailers have to bring in, and that typically means that it's a little bit harder of a product to donate.
And how'd you get Bobby Portis and why Bobby Portis? I love Bobby. I'm a huge Bucks fan. I go to a lot of the games. I see him. The crowd loves him. He's just a hard-working, working person's player, perfect for Milwaukee. But how did you get him to get involved? And tell us about that.
So the Bucks have been working with us a lot, and they like the work that we do. We work with them, and in that we just got to know some of their players. And Bobby, we were looking for the right place to put Bobby. Bobby's a special guy.
He is.
He is dynamic, and he's enthusiastic, and he loves helping, particularly children.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I've watched Bobby during all our commercial shoots and the media we were taking pictures of for this program, and I've watched him down more than one peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah.
He has stories about it from when he was a kid. He is just genuinely concerned that every child has food, and so it was a natural fit.
I was there when they were filming his commercials for this, and it was really, really fun on a number of levels. Number one, watching him interact with the kids. And he made it clear to everyone that was involved in filming the commercials, listen, if I'm with the kids, I don't want to be bothered. Let me be with the kids when we're not shooting and doing whatever. And the kids were just so excited. But there was a lot of, you could see, natural fun there. Like he really enjoyed what he was doing. Also, I could see, because I do a lot of filming of commercials and other things, it was fun to watch him. He was so prideful in doing the work. And if he flubbed up, and it is not easy, I can tell you from experience and all the blooper reels that I'm a part of here through my crack marketing staff, but it isn't easy. And when he would screw up, he would like be yelling at himself in front of all of us. It was quite fun. But I thought with him, the kids, the commercials, I thought it turned out great. I don't know if the final product is done and you've seen it, but I thought it was fantastic, all the stuff that he was doing.
Yeah, I have not seen the final product yet, and I'm excited to see it shortly. But and what I really love about what he does is, he has the brand, or he has a logo, Underdog, and he really his story is really from that perspective. When you hear why and how he came to Milwaukee, he really sought after coming to Milwaukee specifically.
Interesting. I don't know that story,
Yeah,
so that's
it's interesting. You'll have to
me.
ask him, and
Yeah.
and it really has to do with he wanted to come here. He wanted a market like this. He wanted to be able to make a difference, and now here he is as our unofficial mayor of Milwaukee, and
Yeah.
genuinely a great guy. The other thing, I've watched him. We had one of our what we call our food leaders, which is a person with lived expertise. It's we were talking with a grandma who is raising her grandkids unexpectedly after gun violence took her son,
Mm.
and she has 5 little ones that she's now caring for after she thought she was done and past this part of her
Yeah.
life. And one of her grandkids came to one of our events with Bobby, and he is a very quiet young man. And Bobby pulled him out, pulled him aside, didn't care that there were cameras, other things that were going on. He wanted the time with this young boy.
Hmm.
And he took him under his wing, and he started mentoring him, and they still stay in touch.
Mm.
It's just very special and very genuine.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I knew that that is the representative we wanted for Feeding America.
That's great. Now, this program runs from January 16th to February 16th. And what does that mean? It runs from them. I know people can go to your website. Is that where they can find out more information about, how to help or what to do? Tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So during that time, we will need what we always call food funds and friends. So we'll need the donations to purchase the food. We need food donations. But during that time, we need the volunteers to come out and sort that product and make sure that we're getting it out very, very fast. We do put a timeline on it. Doesn't mean we will always accept peanut butter and jelly. We will always accept that, but we do put that timeline on it so people are really paying attention and learning during that time why peanut butter is so important.
Okay. And tell us about some other programs Feeding America offers. I know those mobile pantries, school pantries, anything else going on, in the first half of the year that you want to let people know about or talk about.
You will see a lot of opportunity to volunteer during this time because we will be doing a lot of outreach once the weather starts to change. Right now, January and February, we really look for people to come into our facility and do a lot of our sorting. It's a little bit more of a quiet time for us coming off the holidays, and we want people to remember that donations are still really very, very important, and volunteering is still really important, even though we're outside of the holidays now. I would look to soon as we get to March and April and May, as soon as we get to that later springtime, what you're going to start to see is that opportunity to volunteer on the outside, doing some of our mobile pantries, or getting involved with some of these special programs that we're going to be doing in terms of April's our big fundraising event. That's where we'll be looking for people to come out and support that. It's going to be pretty special this year. We're looking at getting a very spectacular keynote speaker who I can't
Ooh.
say yet, but it's unusual. It's not a name that people would know, but certainly with a lot of experience in that food security space on a global level.
Oh, that's amazing.
So we are really excited about the spring and all the events we have coming up. But what we really want people to think about is go to our website all the time. We will keep it up to date and look for those opportunities to get involved.
Well, Hupy and Abraham has a mission statement that says it's going to give back to the community based on our successes. And I'll tell you, for me, I've been here almost 30 years now. One of the things I'm most proud of is that we say it but we actually mean it. And we give our employees and pay our employees 8 hours we pay for them to go out 8 hours in the community and make a difference. And they've really grasped what we think is important, giving back. We've given over $1 million of our own money to hundreds of organizations. And each year, as a gift to the owners, our employees pick a charity of their choice where they give their own money, and it's usually between $10,000 and $15,000. And I'm excited to announce that we send it off and ask our employees who they wanted to pick, and they picked you this year. They picked Feeding America. So our employees are going to volunteer as much as they always do, but they're going to put their money where their mouth is, and they're going to give their donation at the end of this year to you guys. So I'm super excited that you're here, and I could tell you that that's who they chose. So we literally let them pick organizations and then vote, and they picked Feeding America this year because of what they see through your organization, through volunteering and all the hard work and listening to what you say. And so I'm super excited it's you this year, and we wanted to announce that on this podcast. And we just can't tell you enough how great we think your organization is, how great we think you are at the helm, and we're just so proud to be associated with you.
Well, thank you so much. First of all, thank you, and thank your employees on this. That's a huge honor because there are so many good nonprofits in this community. And one of the things I really like about working where I do is that we get to partner with a lot of those nonprofits as well. So when you donate to us, we're also going to help benefit a lot of the other nonprofits in the community. But it even means more when it comes from a team, a staff like that, and especially your team who. Clearly, when they come, they have a good time. I mean, that is very, very clear. But your team really understands what it is that they're trying to do in the community, what they're trying to do through us, what they're trying to do with us. And that is just so special because we can get a lot more done together than we could ever do without partnering. So thank you very much for that. That's very exciting.
It is exciting. It's exciting
for me. We're going to do good things.
Yeah, awesome. Well, before we let you go, we always play a game. Every one of my guests plays a game. We call it the Hupy Hot Seat. Actually, I almost forgot to do this at my last podcast, and then I had to be reminded. We have to make sure we play the Hupy Hot Seat. And so you are now going to be in the Hupy Hot Seat, where I'm going to ask you 3 questions related to food safety. We're personal injury lawyers, so we always have to have a little twister on it. But it's multiple choice. And so today, Patty's going to play Hupy Hot Seat, Food Safety Edition. Patti will have to answer 3 questions regarding food safety. So here we are, question number 1. The CDC estimates that roughly how many people get sick each year from foodborne illnesses? A, 28 million, B, 38 million, or C, 48 million? And before you answer, I have to say, wow, that many people are getting sick from foodborne illnesses. That's wild. So I guess A, 28 million, B, 38 million, or C, 48 million.
Well, gosh, my answer is usually always D, so this is a problem, but I'll go with B, 38 million.
Okay, it's actually 48 million.
Oh,
isn't that scary to think
scary.
48 million people?
Yeah.
Wow, crazy. Which of the following is not, is not a major food allergen? Shrimp, shrimp A, B, milk and eggs, C, honey, or D, tree nuts?
C.
You are right, C, honey. I knew you'd get this one right.
Yeah.
And then the last question, food should be left at room temperature for no more than A, she's already shaking her head here, 2 hours, B, 3 hours, or C, 4 hours?
I would go with A, 2 hours.
You are right. 2 hours is the max time perishable foods should be at room temperature. One bacterium can double every 20 minutes. Wow, that is
Scary.
crazy.
We require our entire leadership team to have a food safety manager certificate. So I had to take it, but I got to be honest with you that it's been a while.
Well, look how
So I'm a
good you
little
did.
nervous.
That is amazing. Well, Patti, thank you so very much for being here today. We're so grateful you took time out of your busy schedule, and I know how busy you are, to come here to be on our podcast. And we're just so excited that our employees chose Feeding America this year for the charity of choice. Keep up the great work. We're so proud of you, and I look forward to seeing you when I'm volunteering at Feeding America soon.
Thank you so much, and thank your team. I really appreciate it.